I'm 48 and training for my 15th marathon, and I wish I could tell you that I have all the answers to running over 40. But I have to admit, I spent a good chunk of my early 40s trying to train like someone much younger who didn't need sleep and had a functioning hamstring. Believe me, things did not always go well. Hey everyone, I'm Jess, a marathoner, a mid-pack coach, and someone who has an impressive collection of running mistakes. And today I want to talk about the three biggest I made after turning 40. And not because I'm fragile or old, but because I'm more experienced and should know how to train smarter at this point, right? And I want you to stick around for mistake number 3 because I've got some fueling insight that I rarely hear people talking about. This topic has been on my mind for a while, so let's dive right in. So, mistake number 1 is trying to train like I'm still 25. Now, listen, I get it. I watch all the videos and follow all the people. I mean, I do spend an inordinate amount of time on the treadmill, so watching YouTube is kind of like a full-time gig for me. And I have attempted to emulate all of the running influencers, the elite athletes, the professional coaches and their plans, thinking if it works for them, it should work for me. And just look at how much fun they're having in all these videos. They're doing 2-a-days and they're running groups and they're eating pizza and drinking beer and they're never sleeping. I mean, those are the things that makes running so awesome and why we want to watch it, right? Except that many of those people are often 10, 15, or even 20 or more years younger than me, which turns out actually matters. Now, before you click away thinking I'm about to tell you that being over 40 is old and it's time to pick out a walker and hang up your running shoes, just hold on and hear me out. No, we should not be following the path of 20 or even 30-year-olds, but we certainly can train hard. We can run long distances and do fast workouts. We can and should lift heavy, and we can eat pizza and drink beer. However, we just have to know when and how to do those things wisely. At 48, I now know I have to recover, and that means recovery days and real recovery runs, and not everything at medium hard pace like the kids can do. I know now that it's not wise to follow the same plan as a collegiate cross-country team or fitfluencers who only run for glamour shots or elite athletes. Which reminds me of a hilarious exchange I had with a 66-year-old athlete a few years ago when he was training for a 10K. He called to tell me that he had just seen a video of Eliud Kipchoge doing a workout and with 100% seriousness asked if it could be incorporated into his plan so that he might get faster. Now, if you don't know who Kipchoge is, he is a Kenyan who was 39 years old at the time and is widely regarded as the greatest marathoner of all time with 2 Olympic marathon golds. He was a former marathon world record holder and held the first sub-2 26.2 run. Needless to say, Kipchoge's workout was not added to this athlete's plan. And it's easy for us to look at this story and hear it and think how ridiculous that a 66-year-old who runs at a 15-minute pace would even consider doing anything someone 27 years younger running at a 4-minute 35-second pace can do. But here's the thing. I find myself doing this sometimes. I compare my training, my pace, my fitness. I see people doing huge mileage, insane workouts, running on 5 hours of sleep, eating pizza and beer, and then running 20 miles the next morning and think, well, if they can do it, I should be able to do it too. But here's the thing about being over 40. It's not that we can't do those things. It's that we're experienced enough to know when to do them and how to respond to them. Because when you train over 40, the goal isn't to prove you're still 25. The goal is to train like someone who actually understands how running and your body actually works. So now mistake number 2 is thinking that running alone would make me strong. Now, for years, I believed the best way to get stronger at running was simply to run more. Now I know that strength training is the price of admission to running when you're over 40. For me today, this is non-negotiable. My mind was changed after I spent 3 years in what I can only describe as hamstring purgatory. I tried everything. I saw my doctor, I sort of rested, I did PT, I stretched, I saw 2 different chiropractors, I cried many tears of frustration, I did massage, I ignored it and hoped it would go away, and I did dozens of Google searches and probably hundreds of YouTube searches and found nothing fixed it. What finally worked was tendon loading work and neuromuscular training, consistently on a schedule. Nothing fancy, but it built the strength and stability that my body needed to actually run properly again. So now strength training is not optional, it's part of the deal. But it doesn't mean you have to spend hours at the gym. For runners over 40, your big priorities should be your glutes, your calves, your glutes, your ankles and your feet, your core, and your glutes. So now you have to know how to add some strength so that you can adapt better and run better. And honestly, your 60, 70, and 80-year-old self will thank you too. So mistake number 3 is treating recovery like it was just taking a day off. So for a long time, I thought recovery basically meant one thing: take a rest day and you're good. And technically I was doing that. I had rest days and I had easier runs. I wasn't completely ignoring recovery. But what I wasn't paying attention to were the 2 things that actually make recovery work. And that is sleep and nutrition. And I didn't really start paying attention to my sleep until about a year ago. And nutrition, honestly, it took me even longer, and I'm still trying to figure that one out. So for about 13 years of marathon training, I thought I was feeling well. But in hindsight, I don't even really remember thinking about it for the first several years at all. I was just eating. I'd run long, I'd come home, I'd gorge on whatever I could get my hands on, and then I'd do it again later that day and the next day because I was ravenous from my long runs. But here's what I don't hear a lot of people talking about. That ravenous feeling later in the day and the following day is sometimes a sign that you are not feeling properly for the run in the first place. And we hear that about hydration, but it's also true of fuel and food. If you are starving, it's too late. You're already somewhat depleted. And then you go into your next workouts from a deficit. And that was me, underfueling both calories and especially carbs. And trying to run while underfueling carbs is kind of like trying to drive a car with the parking brake on. Not good. And this is something I see frequently with runners and friends and even family members over 40. They're doing the miles and the workouts, but they're trying to support it on 5 or 6 hours of sleep and whatever food happens to be around. And that works until it doesn't. So now I look at recovery a lot differently. Rest days and easy days help, but the real recovery usually happens in the boring stuff, like sleeping enough and fueling properly, and giving your body the resources it needs to adapt to the training. And once I started paying attention to all of those pieces, training didn't just feel easier, it actually started working better. So if you're running over 40, the goal isn't to prove you can still train like you did 20 years ago. The goal is to train like someone who is smarter than they were 20 years ago, because experience isn't a limitation. It's actually an advantage if you use it. If you want to follow along while I test this theory by trying to run a sub-4 marathon this May, subscribe and join the experiment. Either I'm going to PR or you will get a very educational case study.